The White House is a bit confused. The inflation rate isn't 0%. That's Biden's approval rating. We have some good news this week. Elon Musk put in a bid to buy the FBI. The big raid at Mar-a-Lago. Inflation, what I'm calling Perpetuation Act. They are also calling Inflation Reduction Act. We'll see which of the two makes more sense. And inflation is now at 0%. All this and more coming up on Relevant Rants. Welcome. I'm Mike Harvey here with Tom and
I love him being
Alex.
here, Mike.
Yeah. To kick us off, got a tweet here for you guys. Breaking: Elon Musk offers to purchase the FBI for $100 billion. We're still waiting to hear if the Clintons are willing to sell.
I love that. That's a classic line.
Oh man!
Hope that doesn't bother you, because come on, let's get over that stuff.
Oh yeah.
I got to be out there a little bit. You know,
it's funny.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Funny.
It is. So if you guys have been paying attention, pretty much almost if you haven't been paying attention, you couldn't not hear about the raid at Mar-a-Lago. Mm-hmm. Crazy times we're living in. Basically, Dark Brandon, that's the new name the White House came up with for Joe Biden, is using, I'm calling him his secret police at this point, FBI, and soon to come, tripling of the FBI, as to go raid an ex-president, a political opponent, which is unethical at best, at worst illegal. Lots of news coming out about this.
I just don't understand it, because the Attorney General said that when it's possible, they try to use different measures and methods. And I'm like, well, why didn't they? They say they say it's less intrusive than kicking down the door. So it's like, why didn't we? We haven't heard him say that. I mean, when he said we try, then I'm like, I'm waiting for the next statement, and we couldn't because of this.
Well,
they didn't say that.
Trump was already working with them. They had subpoenaed records before, and he had cooperated with that. They didn't need to go to this effort, and really, I think it's really a lot for political showmanship.
Well, it's all political, and that's what I don't get. I'm not for or against anyone. I think I've been that balanced with our show, but I have a problem when one side comes out maliciously after the other. I remember, we all remember when Trump was like, Hillary, lock her up.
So how much did they crucify Trump over saying that? And now, but Merrick Garland came out yesterday saying, we're applying the law evenly to all cases, but okay, like you did with Hillary, like you have with Hunter,
yes,
like
exactly.
You did with Jeffrey Epstein.
I want to know where the island guest list is.
Right. Well, maybe that's not a bad case, because Jeffrey Epstein suicided himself, right?
We also know that I forgot how to pronounce Miss Maxwell's name. Ghislaine. But she had a book.
Yeah. I guess this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we kick her door down to get the book, or do the FBI already have the book?
Oh, they already burned it.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Alex, for helping me.
I'm here to keep the channel
Mike
alive.
back to the middle there. I'm just for people, and I love the fact that you can have two sides, but let's have two sides.
But so Merrick Garland called the bluff, Trump's bluff. Hey, we're going to release this document, and they said, now Trump is coming with his team and saying, release it immediately.
I'm ready.
I have nothing to hide. Show it to everyone.
Yes.
And that's exactly what they should do.
Mm-hmm. I think everybody knew this was coming. So I do think Trump is a very intelligent individual to get where he has gotten. So if they found anything, they may have to be suspect of what they found.
Right, but two sides. One, are they trying to remove Trump from the playing field, which is most likely what's going on? And I have suspicions. I'm not basing this on anything other than, suspicions.
Your thoughts and
feelings. But that they may plant evidence.
I'm coming from a faith-based position still, that I think God is in charge. Because the Bible says that he controls the king's hearts like the water that goes around rocks.
Right.
So I'm still having my eggs in the basket that God is in control, because I believe he is or he isn't. Mm-hmm. I think people will do bad things. I think we see it all over, including the Bible. They will do bad things to bring about their own agendas. But I'm here to say, let's just as a public, let's just see it or hear it all. There again, I've said it a long time, Mike. I don't mind watching a CNN show, and I get a lot of great laughs. I do.
Cartoon News Network.
I do believe.
Network.
I do believe that the Bible says laughter is good medicine, and I enjoy hearing the other side. You know, but sometimes I sit there and go, "Oh, you got to be kidding me." You know, it's like so. And I do think that sometimes if I go too far on the other side, and I'll listen to the Fox stuff, and I'll go, maybe it's not as cheerful as that may be too. But I think in the end it should be reasonable, right?
Right. Well, I don't think that. I think this is going to blow up in the Liberals' face. There's nothing more they could have done to rally and unify the conservative base than what they've done now. And like, I mean, this is, as some people have said, well, you know, looking like almost a banana republic.
Yeah. Well, you know, as we do move on, I get to follow things that, Mike, you tell me about, and I get to look at. And you got this PGA versus the LIV. You know, as I see it, you've got a group that has controlled a sport for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And they've got a way of playing. You have the LIV coming in, and now they want to take golf, and they want to add some fun to it. They want to have 12 captains, and they get to choose team members, and they'll play by a different set of rules, which I think is entertaining. I really do. I mean, when my daughter played tennis, college tennis rules are definitely different from high school, and they're different from the professional tennis ranks, because they're trying to make it more watchable for fans. Even the Major League Baseball, now that you have extra innings, they put a runner on second. Makes sense. Makes it exciting, you know. I mean, the first time I saw it, I go, "What's the guy doing on second?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it was a guy that got out last inning. They put him on second." I go, "This is exciting." So as we're there, I don't have a problem with making things more exciting. I love to watch the USFL football this last year. I mean, we started this year. They got teams. The rules aren't the same, but they've got the CBS. They got Fox and NBC broadcasting their playoff system this year, and that hasn't been done since the first Super Bowl. So they're bringing back in a watchable game, and they're doing it with competing networks. I think that's great.
Yeah, but Tom, I am for the suspension personally, just from and I don't know a ton about this, right? I'm not super well informed, but I've been kind of noticing it a little bit, and it's kind of controversial in the sports world, especially the golf world, but. It's clearly outlines in their contract, like, hey, you can't go play for someone else more than X amount of games that's not approved by us, because they're basically, Tom, employees of the PGA, right? So that'd be like me saying, hey, in your contract, Alex, you work here, like you can't go moonlight on the side more than what I've already approved, and if you do, then like. You can't work for us, and that's where it's coming. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
You know, Mike,
they broke the contract.
Well, I love it because this affected me personally. You know, back when I was bodybuilding, back in the early late 70s, I competed in a organization called AAU, Amateur Athletic Union, and bodybuilding was the byproduct of powerlifting. So a bodybuilding show was kind of pushed off to the back, and we did it. But when bodybuilding started to come into its own, and there was professional ranks back then, when we started coming into our own, we were competing in the AAU, but then in 1982, a new organization came up, National Physique Committee. And I was like, I'll compete there too. So we were all having fun, competing in two different shows, getting a chance to show what we got and earn money with photo shoots and earn titles. And I'll never forget getting a phone call from the AAU president back then. And he says, Tom, he goes, you got to make a choice. And I go, why do we got to make a choice? They go, well, you're going to compete with us or you're going to compete with them. And I'm like, well, why can't I compete with both? Joe Weider had my contract, but this was an organization. And so as I did that, I talked to Jim Manuel, which is now president of the IFBB, International Federation of Bodybuilding, and NPC, National Physique Committee. And Jim convinced me that I'm coming up with a superior league. This is what I want to do. And so I went that way. Lo and behold, at the end of my career, Vince McMahon, who I know doesn't have a lot of good press right now, came up with the WBF, World Bodybuilding Federation. Now, I had a lot of friends that jumped there, and so then the group that was mad at the AU was mad at the other athletes for jumping because now they wanted to go into World Bodybuilding Federation, which was more of a show like WWF, World Wrestling Federation. Now, I talked to Vince early on because I was retiring, and I'll never forget, I had talked to Vince, and I thought, I'm going to jump into the WBF. I don't care what the NPC does or IFBB because I had already retired. And I was coming back, and my dad had a stroke. And my brother says, Tom, don't put us through this again. So I bounced out. So this one's affected me because I initially didn't win like 12, 15 contests in the AAU like I did. And so I talked to the AAU and said, do you want me to send the trophy to the second place winner? And now that you've took away my title in that, I go, but the money I spent, but I mean, do you want the trophy back? I'll send it to the second place guy and go, hey, you won, yay! So it didn't make sense. I mean, it was a business direction, but for the athlete, it's kind of like, oh, come on.
Right, were you in a contract that said you couldn't do? Okay, so
that's
different.
But I know, but it was one where everybody was saying, now we want a piece of something you do, and there's only a lifespan on this thing. So I get that that you have contracts. I had plenty of contracts through my athletic career, and I only endorsed products I believed in. But with organizations and coming up with a different idea to enhance the viewing pleasure or the participation of the audience or grow the sport to give more people a chance to participate, I would like to see them be a little more reasonable. You know what I'm saying? I mean, could they come together and go
renegotiate or something like that? Yeah.
I mean, just like say, hey, we get it. We're for you guys too.
Right.
Instead of oh, you can't even compete with us now. If you compete with
because you can argue that a lot of these like NFL, NBA, they're kind of monopolies in their own kind of field. So why not make a more fun, more casual version of these sports? And allow the same pros to play there.
Well, the WBF came along and they folded real quick because they had a very committed group come after them, to shut them down. They did. I mean, it was just something that the industry did, protected itself. But I like the idea of making it more entertaining.
I agree.
And so they took bodybuilding, which we put a lot of work into it, and the work that we did in bodybuilding, they use in the WWF. So they said, let's just have a WBF.
Yeah.
Not quite so fast.
Yeah, because I agree with the whole entertaining sports thing. Because when I was a kid on Cartoon Network, they had when they started doing live action content and stuff like that, they had this basketball game with a variation where it's all.
You didn't stop watching Cartoon Network when you were a kid. You still watch it.
Actually, I don't.
Be honest. Tell the truth.
I still watch cartoons, but they're from Japan. But anyways, basically it was basketball, the same rules as basketball, except the whole floor is basically trampolines, and so that was the variation. And it's obviously pros are not going to go do that specifically, but I think it's change the rules up a little bit. I don't know, obviously don't make it as prestigious as the NBA, but make it casual. I don't know, make it fun, make it entertaining.
I love the fact that the NFL said you can choose to do a field goal or go for an extra point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you want to do a field goal, we're going to move you back farther because that's why we went with the extra points. So make it a little harder.
Yeah. So good news of the week. Inflation is now officially at 0%.
Today, we received news that our economy had 0% inflation in the month of July. 0%. Here's what that means. While the price of some things went up last month, the price of other things went down by the same amount. The result, 0 inflation last month, but people were still hurting. But 0 inflation last month.
And I got a tweet for you guys from Lauren Boebert. The White House is a bit confused. The inflation rate isn't 0%. That's Biden's approval rating. So just to clarify for anyone gullible to White House lies,
Mike is consistent.
Hey, I hopefully if I'm at least that's great. But
so that means the shelves are going to come back and have all the products again, right?
Right.
Well, at their old price.
Yeah.
So that would be 0 inflation, right?
I can finally upgrade my computer.
Yeah.
Have you noticed suddenly all the prices that we were paying a couple weeks ago have gotten cheaper since then?
Oh my gosh, I should tell my wife. So my wife wasn't telling me the truth when she went to the grocery store.
Yeah, apparently mine wasn't either. But thank you, Joe Biden.
I'll walk
for
into
that.
the gas station and be like, "Hey, why is this $6 still?"
I need to update my wife, right?
Yeah.
Say, hey, go back to the grocery store and tell them inflation is
is now
0%.
0%.
So we should be paying.
we got to pay
They
less.
should also say the Ukraine war ended.
We already ate your groceries, but we need a discount on the groceries.
Right. So
That's also a thing too, I think. So
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So
Don't get mad at me.
We're doing more of the same that's causing inflation to bring down inflation. Apparently, with the inflation, I'm calling Inflation Perpetuation Act, Inflation Reduction Act officially. And part of that thing is to hire 87,000 new IRS agents, and they're saying, well, they're not agents or whatever, right? But like in being in business, Tom, and I know, as we ramp things up, we have to hire support staff. So of course they're support staff, but it's not going to affect you and I, right?
If you have ever been in a IRS audit, it's very troubling.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when I came out of the corporate world and I took a 2/3 salary cut to come in the ministry, I got the file and got money back.
Right.
But as I did my taxes and money didn't come back, called a friend of mine. His name's Keith Cepeda. Keith was one of the IRS guys here in town. And I said, Keith, I think there's something going on. He called me back and goes, yeah, they got your hard copy in Colorado. You know, they don't like to give money back. I go, oh, wow. I maybe shouldn't say Keith's name, but he's retired now.
I can bleep him.
But it's I think Keith will be okay. But I'm just telling you, he's like, Tom, I do know you went in the ministry. I told him that, and I'm gonna, vouch for your side. So, but I wasn't trying to scam him. He's just like, hey, you've always paid. Now you're getting money back, and that's something we don't like to do. Is give money back after you've been paying for, all your life.
Exactly.
Right,
So,
but they're committing $80 billion into the IRS, which is interesting. 700,000 of which, by the way, just as a little side note, is going towards additional armory, guns and ammo. Right? So why does an IRS agent need guns and ammo? But
we have almost as many IRS agents armed as we do standing military, because I think our standing military is usually at 300,000 if we're not at war or we're not at a conflict someplace. So now I think we have 86,000 agents. We had another 86,000. Here,
Do the IRS agents get drafted if we start World War III or something like that?
I think that would be like.
Do they audit them?
I think that maybe let's talk now. So we got a new way to get excitement into golf. Maybe that should be a thing. Hey, you'll be an IRS agent until we go to war.
You might get a lucky lotto number and get to go to war. We should put them on the front lines. They're probably the best fighters.
Exactly.
Just kidding.
I'm not. Okay, maybe I am.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're committing that, but the budget that we're committing is $80 billion. It's not a small amount of money for anybody who's in business. You
It's
might know
Repo
that.
Man with guns now.
But the crazy thing is the IRS budget has been like 12-13 billion per year, and now we're committing $80 billion more dollars. What's that, like 4 times? More than 4 times, 5 times?
Remember what they said?
the
We're just
annual
bringing
budget?
it back up to what it used to be.
But remember, inflation's zero, so we got to do something about that.
Yeah.
Right.
We got to bring it back up.
Right.
Right.
Well,
Maybe that's why they bought all that ammo, because we got a deal on it.
But you bring up a great point, right? So they said, oh, well, we're not going to do more auditing. What people are not paying attention to is the language. You got to watch language and language patterns, right? So what they said is we're not going to increase auditing beyond historical levels. So what they're doing is they're going back to the highest levels that it's ever been. And you remember back when it used to be crazy, the IRS audits, it's calmed down under, fortunately, conservative administrations. But they're going back to the highest level it's ever been of auditing going after people.
Well, I used to be in the farming business, and we had a lot of farming businesses go broke in the 80s, 90s, and I remember going out to an airstrip and seeing an IRS sticker on the door of an airplane. Property of the United States government, IRS. So I was like, somebody's plane just got repoed. And I thought, really? And there was a chain around the prop. I mean, those were real things back in the days. And I'm not saying that they didn't need to do that. I'm just saying those are things you observe that I think that might happen again.
Well, and speaking of observation, so I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure they say there's about 3-point-something billion that needs to be recollected every year or something along those lines. But they only really collect 1-point-something billion.
So we're not going to make our money back.
So we're spending more
Never
money
going to make our
to
money back.
supposedly make that money back, but it's like, no, you're just spending more money.
Right. So what it is there's approximately $4 billion of uncollected tax debt every year, and they're only successful in collecting about 1.4 billion of that. Right. So even if they collected all $4 billion, what's it going to take 20 years to get back that money? It's never going to happen.
But they have guns now. They'll get all it back.
Well, they might get more than all of it back.
Yes.
And I think that's the point, right? But anyway, I think I want to leave everyone on an encouraging note because it's not all doom and gloom.
No.
I think part of at least my thought process on this, I think Tom and Alex would agree, like, is to bring you the facts, but then also like bring some encouragement. So like one, and I think I've said this many times with some of the other shows and stuff, is like the world needs Jesus.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
This gives people a reason to pray.
Right.
Because the
Right.
Bible says, if my people would humble themselves, pray, seek my face, I'll heal their land.
Right.
So, as you tell people all the time, my wife says it all the time. She's superintendent of the school district. Prayer will never be out of the school as long as you have tests.
Right.
Those kids are praying.
But I
Oh,
think
yeah.
this goes to reinforce, like, it's more important than ever that you guys get out and vote in November.
that's true.
You can affect the election regardless of what you think. Maybe the state of California in general, but other states, if you're watching from another state,
Or at a
another
local
city,
level.
at a local level, we can affect that. Even at a national level, when it comes to like the House of Representatives, things like that, we can
You
affect.
know what, I love it because I have a connection and I have friends that are in every social economical group, every ethnic group, and every political group. And there's people that are agreeing on both sides that there's got to be a better way to slide it back to the middle. And I think that can be said as being for the Republic, which I am. I'm for the Constitution,
Yep.
which I am. I'm more conservative, but I'm for people. I think that people should get insurance, and it should be affordable. I think people that are having a hard time that have entered our country legally should be given services.
Well, and I've
to
said
help
this
get
many
them on their
times
feet.
on that, Tom, is I think that it should be easier to enter the country
I agree
legally.
too. I agree too.
Like
And-
that barrier is
and-
too high, and that's
and-
part of what's causing that problem. But
and people may need a help to get started, and we should
absolutely.
do that. Those are absolutely
Yeah.
things that we should do. And I've got friends that have done it that way. So again.
but I think you've said many times, like, everyone wants to be so polarized, or the media, the the government officials and stuff want everybody to be so polarized. I think there's a lot more we can agree on than we disagree on, and
yes.
we need to open up lines of communication and conversation,
And
and
that's
not be
what-
afraid to talk about subjects.
And that's our hope in these things.
Yeah.
I didn't like the late night tweets. I'd wake up and go, huh? I'm just saying it.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah. I was like, what? Maybe go, huh? Maybe we shouldn't say that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I think we could all agree to disagree, and then not make it such a life and death issue where we feel like we got to hurt each other or convince you in a way that would maybe take away your rights or your privilege.
Exactly.
Maybe a threatening manner. I don't think that should be
But
happening.
I think just be encouraged.
Yes.
Know that we love you guys, and if you do need prayer,
Absolutely.
reach out.
Yep.
But hopefully you find this content that we're doing educational, but also entertaining and informative at the same time. So
And maybe you get a laugh once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
hopefully. So have a great day. God bless. See you next time.